Hi guys, it's me HD and welcome today to the qualifying watch along, of course the final qualifying watch along and qualifying session of 2021 for the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys are doing well, whether you joined me early for practice 3 or whether this is the first time you're joining me this weekend or ever. Hopefully you guys watching and in the chat are having a decent day, and hopefully with me today you will be watching along this session, and a session that, of course, between these two drivers, level on points in the Drivers' World Championship. Going to be a very, very important session. Looking, and I will get to the practice 3 results in a moment, but it is looking, I think, pretty close when you add in the context of, what happened in practice 3. I think we are in for a very close fight for pole position. Also in the midfield, it's looking pretty competitive between Ferrari, AlphaTauri and McLaren. McLaren look as though they're probably third or fourth quickest team from what I saw in practice 3. Of course, the conditions in qualifying will be different and will favour certain teams over others, but it's looking good in terms of competition in the midfield pack, and really through the whole field it looks competitive, which is good to say. But we'll get on to in a moment the practice 3 results. But like I said, the battle at the very front between Hamilton and Verstappen looking pretty good, I think, coming into this session. But yeah, hopefully you guys, no matter what part of the world you're watching from, no matter what time it is in your part of the world, hopefully you're having the best day you could possibly be having. Now, before we get into the teams and get into individually how I expect each team to do based on what we've seen so far this weekend, let's get into the results of practice 3. So Lewis Hamilton ended up P1, Max Verstappen was P2. Now, 0.2 of a second isn't a massive gap, to be honest, but I think what makes things probably more exciting for this session is that Max Verstappen did not put all of his best sectors together on the best lap he did. For example, on the that lap he did, his first sector was not an improvement on, what he had done previously. I think on the medium compound tyre, but on another lap that he did improve his first sector, and his second sector was pretty good, and then made a bit of a mistake at the turn 9 hairpin-ish type corner. So Max Verstappen, I think, definitely could have gone quicker in that session. I think he probably would have been about 1/10 of a second away from Lewis Hamilton, probably at most, in practice 3. So that's what I meant a moment ago by when you add in the context of, how Verstappen, how he, did his lap and how things happened. I think Max Verstappen can go quicker. Lewis Hamilton had a very good session, of course. The first half of the session, he was very quick, just going quicker and quicker. But eventually, at the final 20 minutes or so in the session, he didn't really go any quicker. Maybe that's because of the weather conditions. We'll have to see. In this qualifying session, of course, where it's going to be darker and cooler, we'll see whether that suits Mercedes as much as has done in other Grand Prix this season. But I think, without a doubt, between Hamilton and Verstappen, it will be close. It's not going to be Hamilton on pole by 0.3 of a second or Verstappen on pole by 0.3 of a second. I think it'll be at the absolute most, 0.2 of a second. But I expect it to be probably 1/10 or so between the two at the end of the day. And then, Bottas was third, Perez fourth. Those two really competing for third place. They're nowhere near Hamilton and Verstappen, their respective teammates. Norris P5, and then Tsunoda, Gasly, Sainz, Ricciardo, Leclerc completing, the top 10. And it's hard to say exactly what midfield team is the best, because McLaren, that's the first session really this weekend they've really showed that type of pace. But I think you'd probably have to say, as a team, probably AlphaTauri are looking the strongest, and then McLaren and Ferrari probably very close to each other. AlphaTauri looking pretty quick. 6th and 7th there, Tsunoda and Gasly. Ferrari not looking as quick, honestly, as I thought they would be. I thought they would be probably where, say, AlphaTauri were in that session, where AlphaTauri have been so far this weekend. So, yeah, Ferrari not that great, to be honest. And then after the top 10, you've got Stroll P11, Ocon P12, and then Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Alonso, Vettel, Russell, Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin. With Alpine, in practice 2 yesterday, which, the conditions of practice 2 going to be similar to the conditions of qualifying, Alpine was 2nd and 6th in practice 2. So watch out for Alpine, because I think they could be very well, in that fight in the top 10 with McLaren, AlphaTauri, and Ferrari. And then, I think I mentioned, didn't I, the back of the field there. And then, was it Vettel, Russell, Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin. But we've got some very good battles through the field. The only teams that are not really in that great of battles, by the look of it, to me, are Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin, Williams, and Haas. They're kind of in their own part of the grid. But again, the fight for pole and the fight for supremacy in the midfield looking very good. Now, we'll start with Mercedes. The track layout, it should suit them more so than Red Bull, because the first sector, really, the only corner that you need to actually slow down for is turn 1. Every other corner or part of the first sector after that is flat out. And then the second sector, you've got 2 DRS zones. So by the time, you get to the final sector, by the way, being the sector that Red Bull are definitely stronger in, Mercedes should, in this session, have enough of an advantage with Lewis Hamilton to be ahead. But as we have seen, with Max Verstappen this season, you cannot count him out. So Hamilton's going to have to nail, really, those first 2 sectors and get absolutely everything out of the Mercedes car in those sectors where the Mercedes car is so strong, to make sure he gives Max too much to do in the final sector where Max and the Red Bull car is looking quicker than Hamilton in the Mercedes. The cooler conditions in qualifying, it should suit Mercedes better than than their car is in, say, the hotter conditions earlier in the day. I wouldn't say that Red Bull are necessarily bad in the cooler conditions. I just think Mercedes are definitely worse in the hotter conditions that we saw in practice 3, and obviously that we get in practice 1 as well. So Mercedes, I think, for pole position, I think Mercedes are the favourites. I think, given what we've seen so far this weekend, and again, given the layout of the circuit, then, it should be Mercedes' favourite and Lewis Hamilton the favourite for pole position. But like I said, we've seen here in the past close fights for pole, and we've seen drivers pull out spectacular laps to end up on pole position. So I'm not counting out at all this man, Max Verstappen, in the Honda-powered Red Bull, who is still driving very well. The Red Bull looking a lot closer to the Mercedes through practice 3 than it looked really in Friday practice to me. And I think Red Bull, always on a Saturday show a lot more than they do on a Friday. So I don't think, honestly, their pace from Friday was that much to worry about, to be honest. So I think Red Bull will be fine. I don't think they'll be, quicker, clearly, than Mercedes. But I think Red Bull, despite Mercedes probably having the better car around this circuit, I still think Red Bull have a good enough car. And with Max Verstappen in their car, are still a good enough overall package to get on pole position here. Because the Red Bull in the final sector that really, I would say, between the drivers, if it's close on time, that final sector really will decide positions, not just in the fight for pole, but the fight in the whole part of the field, really, for position. And, Max Verstappen and Red Bull looking very quick through there. And I think even if Max, looking forward to the race, even if Max is ending up in second place, and let's say he's a 10.5, 2 tenths away from Lewis Hamilton in the end, with Hamilton on pole, that doesn't mean that Hamilton will just dominate the Grand Prix. So it's definitely a competitive fight this weekend, which I think maybe after Friday practice, people were fearing that maybe Max was not really going to be able to get near Hamilton, say similar to the Qatar Grand Prix, where Lewis Hamilton had a clear advantage over the rest. I don't think it's the case here. I think Red Bull are definitely here to fight, and I think as long as Max and Red Bull can eke out everything they have, then I think they give themselves a very good chance of winning the Grand Prix on Sunday, and firstly, getting pole position here on Saturday. So look out, of course, for the Red Bull today, but look out especially when it comes to the sector time data. Look out in the final sector when it comes to the Red Bull, because I think if they are going to get pole, it's going to be that final sector that will seal the deal for Red Bull and Max Verstappen here today. And in regards to Bottas and Perez, it should be Bottas qualifying third. Perez is not bad around here, but Valtteri, I think, is a step better than Sergio Perez around this circuit. And I think the Mercedes, like I said, should be good enough for Valtteri Bottas to end up qualifying in third place. But we're going to have a great fight, I'm sure of it, up front between Mercedes and Red Bull. And it's going to be very, very close. And I really hope that it will be as exciting, if not more exciting, than the qualifying battle we had a week ago in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah, because that battle was fantastic, and hopefully we get something very similar here. And just to remind you guys, make sure to put, with just over 15 minutes to go until qualifying starts here at the Yas Marina circuit, make sure in the live chat, guys, to give me your top 5 qualifying prediction for, of course, qualifying today. Who do you think will finish first, second, third, fourth, and fifth in qualifying today? Let me know in the live chat, and I will make sure later on, before qualifying starts still, but later on in this build-up, I'll make sure to read out your comments. Yeah, make sure to put that in the live chat, and I'll get reading them soon enough. But I just want to quickly, before I get to all of that and get to my prediction for qualifying today, just going to quickly get onto the midfield. McLaren showing a lot more in practice 3. I don't think they have the quickest midfield car overall. Lando Norris still could end up in the top 5 though, because we've seen so many times this season that Lando has been able to be so consistent in getting top 5, top 6 grid positions for the Grand Prix. So I think it's possible, but I don't think overall McLaren have the best midfield car. I think they've probably got a good enough car to get definitely one car into Q3, maybe both, but it does also depend on Alpine, who were very strong yesterday in practice too. If Alpine can show that pace again, then it might be a bit tough for McLaren today, and it might be a bit tough for them to get both cars into the top 10 shootout, of course, qualifying 3. But I think definitely they can get Norris in a 6th or a 7th, probably at worst for him. But looking pretty decent for McLaren. Of course, they're not going to finish any higher than Ferrari and the constructors, because Ferrari have too big of a lead over them. McLaren would have to hope for a really great result, and Ferrari to have basically no points out of this Grand Prix whatsoever, which I don't think really will happen. So, they just need to go for it and see what happens, really. And then when it comes to Ferrari, like I said when I was looking at the practice 3 results, it's not been that great, has it, for the Scuderia? It's not been that great of a weekend. They've not really showed speed that's, that you would have expected around this circuit, especially in the final sector where you would have expected the Ferrari car to be, very, very quick. They just haven't really shown that great a speed. I think the Ferrari car's probably quick enough to be in the top 10. Maybe not with both cars. Again, depends on Alpine, and can Alpine replicate what they did in practice 2 yesterday. But yeah, Ferrari not looking that great. I think, honestly, if you look at what's, the pace has been so far this weekend, I'd be surprised if a Ferrari driver could beat both AlphaTauris in qualifying today, because AlphaTauri have, not just here, but they have looked quicker in the last 3 or 4 races, to be honest, compared to the Ferrari team. And what we've seen so far from Ferrari, it looks as though they're just about scraping into the top 10, which is not, like I said, it's not really that great, is it, for a Ferrari team who have ended the season so well, and you would have expected them to be basically where AlphaTauri were in practice 3, which is, 6th and 7th, around that type of area, but they're more so between 8th, 10th, or even 11th place even. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Ferrari, but like I said, it's not looking that great for them. Now we'll get on to the rest of the midfield. Aston Martin didn't look too bad in practice 3. Stroll was P11, which was, not too bad, like I said, but I think really their only fight today is with Alfa Romeo. I don't think they're serious contenders to get in the top 10. I just don't see how they can. I think the only hope really for Aston Martin is to set themselves up with a good enough grid position that, like a 12th or a 13th, that they can then, with starting the race on a harder compound of tyre, can then race their way into the top 10 with a good strategy. That's really the only way they're going to get any success from this Grand Prix weekend. For AlphaTauri, like I said, AlphaTauri to me look to be the quickest midfield team consistently. Lando Norris, like I said, he's looking as though if he gets the lap right, that he could maybe be the highest placed midfield, say, driver from that pack, but I don't think that's necessarily because of the car there with Lando Norris. So I think with AlphaTauri, as long as Tsunoda and Gasly hook up their laps, they should be getting both cars in the top 7, at least the top 8 on the grid. That'd be a very good result for them. If they can't out-qualify Alpine, of course, that would be great. Still, they're rivals in the Constructors' Championship for 5th place, but Alpine are pretty much guaranteed 5th place in the Constructors, because Alpine, in the last 2 races, have had just, a lot of points compared to what AlphaTauri have had. I think AlphaTauri have only had 8 points in the last 2 races, when Alpine have had 52 points, I think, in the last 2 races. That's really what has decided the battle between Alpine and AlphaTauri. But AlphaTauri looking good. And also, I want to give a shout out to Yuki Tsunoda, who is looking pretty good so far this weekend. And I'm hoping in this session will, execute what he has been doing this weekend and, properly execute it in a session where it matters. What we saw in Saudi Arabia from him was, I thought, not in terms of qualifying, but what we saw in the race from him, ruining his own race and also ruining Sebastian Vettel's race by taking him out. I thought, really, he was, very poor with what he did there. I'm hoping there will be a bounce back and a redemption for Yuki Tsunoda, because he has shown some good speed later in the season. He has shown more consistency speed-wise later in the season, but he does still do some stupid things, does the young Japanese driver. For Alpine, like I said in practice 2 yesterday, Esteban Ocon was in 2nd place and Fernando Alonso was in 6th, and Alpine were looking like a sure thing to be, say, 3rd quickest team. But from what we saw in practice 3, they weren't looking as good. I think that was, though, mainly down to the tyres they used. They were very conservative when it came to what tyres they used in the session, which is something we have seen from them really all season long. Alpine do not tend to use that many sets of the soft compound tyre. They tend to try and make it last in terms of the soft compound tyre sets. They try to make those last as long as they can and to not really use any, if they can, soft compound tyre sets in any of the practice sessions. So probably the most conservative, I'd say, on that in the entire field. So I think Alpine is kind of an unknown going into the session. the Alpine, pair in terms of the drivers, Ocon and Alonso, both really hoping they can maintain that speed coming into qualifying, and even praying they can, that it will translate into the real thing here in qualifying. And I think you'll probably see an Alpine, in the top 10. Will it be both cars? I think that probably depends on, one, whether they can replicate the speed of yesterday, but secondly, whether McLaren, Ferrari, or AlphaTauri have anything extra in their pockets compared to Alpine. That's what it's going to kind of depend on in this session coming up in 9 minutes' time. So, I think with Alpine, it's kind of just a wait and see. We'll just see, whether they do actually have the pace compared to, like I said, McLaren, Ferrari, and AlphaTauri. For Alfa Romeo, they're looking all right. Like I said, their main competitors this weekend are Aston Martin, pace-wise, but I don't think you'll see him in the top 10. Kimi Raikkonen, of course, had a crash yesterday at turn 14. This is his final qualifying session of his F1 career. Of course, qualifying is not his strongest suit, so I'm not expecting Kimi really to be that strong. I think maybe he'll get into the second part of qualifying, but I don't think it's a guarantee given the lack of pace we've seen from Kimi over a single lap this season, and not just this season, but the last couple seasons as well. And then for Williams, it looks as though Williams are going to be probably the second slowest team. Maybe Russell, if he pulls a lap out the bag, he can get into Q2, but if he does get into Q2, he's not going to get really any higher than a 14th or 15th place. And Williams looking pretty slow, but of course they are looking forward to next season. So are Haas F1, who of course are going to be at the very back. But of course, qualifying starts in 7.5 minutes time. Just want to quickly in the chat read out a super chat from Silverback Orangutan for $4.99, who says, "Thank you for the season, Shazza, Rook, and Nib. Love ya," and then gives his or hers prediction, saying Max, Hamilton, Perez for the top 3. I'm not sure it'd be that, to be honest, given what I've seen so far this weekend in terms of the speed of the cars, but you never know, it could happen. Before I get on to reading your predictions, and again, guys, in the live chat right now, make sure to post your predicted top 5 for qualifying. Who do you think will be on pole, be second, third, fourth, and fifth? Let me know right now in the chat, and I will make sure to make sure to read your predictions before we get going. I'll just quickly get into mine. So I think on pole position will be Max Verstappen. I think he'll do something similar to what we saw in Saudi. I think he'll pull out an absolutely amazing lap, but this time he won't make a mistake. And I think he'll nail the lap and he'll get pole position. And he'll get it by probably less than a tenth to Lewis Hamilton second. And then third, I think it'll be Bottas. Fourth will be Perez. And fifth, I will go with... I'll go with Norris, actually, in fifth. I think AlphaTauri, like I said, I think they will be the quicker team overall. But I think Norris will pull out an amazing lap to get himself in fifth place. But that's what I'm going for. Max, Hamilton, Bottas, Perez, Norris for your top 5 here in qualifying. Just want to say though, before we get going, if you are new to the channel, then don't forget to subscribe. You can subscribe at the bottom right of the screen, and also don't forget it as well to hit the notifications bell. And yeah, don't forget as well, if you are new to the channel, to be around for, like I said earlier in my practice stream, for the content we have coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be live firstly at 10 a.m. UK time for the race preview for the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Then I'll be live with my co-commentator Niblo for the race watch-along at 12:30 p.m. UK time, the same time I've gone live here for qualifying. And then I'll be live probably about half an hour after the race finishes, so around probably 3, 3:15 UK time for the race reaction to the final race of the season. Of course, the title decider, the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So again, don't forget to sub and hit the notifications bell for that content coming up tomorrow. And as well, don't forget to smash a like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. Let me read out some comments though. Hello to everyone in chat, by the way. Great to see you all. Count Blar in chat, great to see you, by the way. Saying, hey, what's up, Chaz? A long time. Thanks for the streams you've done all year. No problem. And as well, that was another thing I was going to say. When it comes to tomorrow's content, if you want to find out about the content that's going to be coming up over the winter, then make sure to tune into my race reaction stream, because towards the end of that stream, I will give a full, I guess, in-depth announcement as to what's going to be happening with that. And like I said, I think you guys will like it, and I think you guys will, you know, you'll be, hopefully, by me, kept entertained through the winter. So yeah, make sure to tune into that. Let me see if there's any predictions here. Astro Stevo, his prediction is Hamilton on pole, Verstappen second, and then Bottas, Perez, Leclerc for his top 5. Blade says, I think Max is going to get pole, but I think if Hamilton gets pole, it's going to be on the straights. I have a feeling Max is going to pull out a Saudi-esque lap minus the crash. Yeah, which is pretty much, you know, I mean, you said it before me, but that's pretty much what I think will happen. Cornwallopedia says Max, Hamilton, Bottas. Silverback Orangutan says Max. Oh, I read out the top 3, but I'll read out the rest. Max, Hamilton, Perez, Bottas, Norris, Sainz, Leclerc, Gasly, Fernando, Ricciardo, and Kimi. And Astro Stevo saying in chat, I think Max is looking rattled and a bit desperate after the last race. I think the pressure is getting to him more than it is to Lewis. Well, I think we'll see in this session, to be honest, whether it is, you know, getting to him, to be honest. Rooksfoot says for his prediction that he believes it'll be Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Perez, Sainz. Gina says Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Perez. So most of you, by the looks of it, going for a Lewis Hamilton pole position, which again I don't necessarily blame anyone for going for that, because he is also, I think, like Verstappen, looking pretty competitive this weekend. But I think I'll now get my graphics ready for you guys, and I'll get out, you know, the dotted line that showcases the danger zone, all of that. By the way, that is indeed, that's not Photoshop, that is indeed what is on the back of the Alpine rear wing L plan. Let me just see if I can get the text ready, as qualifying will be starting in a few seconds time, I think. And of course, Q1, you guys don't know, if anyone is new to Formula 1 and just tuning in the first time, Q1, 18 minutes long. And qualifying 1 will start in 40 seconds time. So I'll just quickly put that dotted line in the first one, of course. So at the end of Q1, of course, anyone below that dotted line will be knocked out and will start in those bottom 5 positions. It looks as though Red Bull want to get out on track early, even though the session has not officially started yet. Lots of people queuing up at the end of the pit lane. As Farouk in chat says he thinks it'll be Hamilton, Bottas, Max and Ocon for the top 4. And there you go. So qualifying has begun here at the final Grand Prix. And let's see whether Max or Lewis can get the important pole for their World Championship bidders. Now, cars filtering out onto circuit, pretty much everyone. And people wanting to get out there and get some good banker laps in. Of course, by the way, the running order on the left-hand side of the screen is not the live order. That's the finishing order, of course, in practice 3. I'll update it as the session goes on. As the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz still even in his garage, not even on track. We've got Verstappen, Perez, Tsunoda, Gasly, Leclerc, Stroll, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Vettel, Schumacher and Mazepin on track right now. Carlos Sainz is going to come out on a set of medium compound tyres, which is surprising. Thought he would have wanted to come out on a set of soft tyres. I think Leclerc is also on the mediums. And Max, pretty sure Max is on the soft. So, like I said, I am surprised that Ferrari have gone for the medium compound tyre to start with in this session. And yeah, the only cars in the pits at the moment are the 2 Mercedes, 2 McLarens, 2 Alpines, and the 2 Williams cars as well. As now Max, who are watching on this, on his first outlap of qualifying, is just coming through the new turn 9, now into turn 10, 11. Closely following an AlphaTauri through now the final sector, but now backs off to give himself a bit more room. And yeah, everyone on the soft compound tyre except for, like I said, the 2 Ferraris of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. And Verstappen now comes into the final corner, and he'll let go of it probably in just a moment. To start his first flying lap in Q1, we'll see how fast he can go. Yesterday, in the representative conditions, you know, the cooler, darker conditions that we see right now, Max did a 24.3, I think. We'll see how quick his first time out of the box is here. He does a 17.0 for the first sector. Doesn't really hit the apex, but you don't really have to at the new turn 5 hairpin. And now DRS wide open, and is running all the way now down to the chicane, the first chicane here of turn 6 and 7, as now Lewis Hamilton comes out on circuit. Just need to quickly just back up on my skybox a moment just to avoid it going in standby mode, so I'll be back in just a moment. So there you go. That's all done. Max Verstappen, another purple sector. Sergio Perez, by the way, has gone quickest for Red Bull on a 1:24.2, which is quite a bit quicker, I think, for him than he went yesterday. As now Yuki Tsunoda goes quickest in the AlphaTauri. Max Verstappen, though, goes even quicker by 0.3 of a second. So Max Verstappen quickest already on a 1:23.6. It's Verstappen from Tsunoda. And then, Gasly is now up to second. So it's Verstappen, Gasly, Tsunoda, Perez, your top 4. And then you've got Charles Leclerc up in 5th place. Lance Stroll is 6th for Aston Martin. Antonio Giovinazzi now shoots up to 5th place for Alfa Romeo. Giovinazzi up to 5th, and Vettel will now be 8th place, as just a replay there of Mick Schumacher going wide on the exit of turn 1, which would have affected his lap, obviously. As Carlos Sainz goes now up to 5th position. Carlos Sainz is up to 5th. And in 10th place now is Mick Schumacher. And then 11th will be Nikita Mazepin. So, and then the rest of the field, your Hamilton, Bottas, Norris, Ricciardo, Ocon, Alonso, Russell, Latifi, they will, and also Raikkonen, they will now be on their first proper flying lap, as Lewis Hamilton does his first sector And Hamilton now on the run down to turn 6 and turn 7. And coming through the chicane, he is looking comfortable so far on this lap. No real issues with his lap. And Hamilton now coming up to the middle sector time beam. And Hamilton about 0.2 of a second quicker than Max Verstappen. As Kimi Raikkonen, by the way, does his first proper time now. And Kimi goes up to 8th place in the Alfa Romeo. So Hamilton now coming through turn 14, now into turn 15 and turn 16. Bit of oversteer on the entry to turn 16, but that's all good. And he goes quickest by 0.4 of a second. Hamilton already banging in a great lap there. Lewis Hamilton is currently in P1. And Max actually quicker in the first sector on that lap, but Hamilton 0.2 quicker in the second and final sector. As Esteban Ocon is now up to 8th place. And then it's he was Russell up to 9th, but Fernando Alonso with his first lap, what a first lap it is, gone all the way up to P4 in the Alpine. And well, not anymore because Lando Norris is up to 4th place in the McLaren. Charles Leclerc on the medium compound tyre is on another lap. I've got to say still, I don't understand why they decided to go with that tyre, Ferrari. I don't really understand it. As Valtteri Bottas now goes 2nd for Mercedes as Charles Leclerc improves his time. I'll make sure to update the order and make it all correct soon. Just need to update the top positions first, obviously. So yeah, Bottas is 2nd, and then you've got Verstappen 3rd, Norris 4th, and then Alonso is in 5th place, Gasly 6th, Tsunoda 7th, Daniel Ricciardo is in 8th position. The Ricciardo up to 8th. There you go. Perez 9th. Sainz in 10th. Ocon 11th. Leclerc 12th. And then Russell is in 13th. Giovinazzi 14th. Raikkonen 15th. And then in the drop zone at the moment, with 9.5 minutes to go, it is Stroll, Vettel, Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin in your drop zone. As we're currently looking at Sergio Perez on an improved lap. He's done a personal best first and second sector, currently sat down in P9. Let's see how much of an improvement it is as Sebastian Vettel improves to P15. Sergio Perez goes up to 3rd, quicker than Verstappen. So it shows you that Max does have more pace in that Red Bull. Talking to Max, he's done a personal best middle sector. So we'll see what he can do in a moment. As Max now through the penultimate corner, car sparking beautifully. Now into the final corner. And Max Verstappen races to the line and goes 2nd, only 0.5 of a second slower than Lewis Hamilton. So that's a good lap there for Max. Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri goes 5th, only 0.5 of a second slower than the fastest man so far. Gasly's on a personal best. It's just coming into now the final couple corners is Gasly. As Stroll improves to 13th in the Aston Martin. Gasly goes 6th in the AlphaTauri. So AlphaTauri 5th and 6th, which surely has to be their aim for this session. As Russell now into the final corner, currently sat in 14th place, of course, Mr. Saturday. And Russell improves his time, but does not go any higher in the order. Stays P14. Esteban Ocon goes from 11th to 7th. So there you go. As Daniel Ricciardo, who's currently in 10th place, is on an improved lap. They're not showing his middle sector time for some reason. slight glitch there, I think. As Gasly actually has had his time deleted by the stewards, as Daniel Ricciardo is now up to 6th place in the McLaren. Lando Norris has done a personal best 1st and 2nd sector. So this should put Norris probably up to 4th or 5th place. Comes through the final corner, and Lando Norris comes to the line. Oh, and hits a bollard through that final corner, but still goes 4th. That's quite a surprise. Didn't see where that bollard came from. It just came out of nowhere. So Norris up to 4th, only 0.3 of a second slower than the P1 time right now. But in the drop zone, with 6.5 minutes left, it's Vettel, Raikkonen, Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin. As we're now currently looking at Lando Norris, his best lap a 1:23.5 on the soft compound tyre. And red flag for a bollard. Yes, a red flag for a fucking bollard. So, get rid of that timer. And there you go. A red flag. This red flag shouldn't take long. It should take literally like a minute. I'm sure they could have cleared that without, And so that's who hit it. So, looks like Mazepin, is it? Who hit it? Or Schumacher? Might have been Schumacher, actually. And then Norris ran over it on the exit of the final corner because it was still rolling about. So, and it went actually like through the barge board area. So lucky that didn't damage anything. It shouldn't have damaged anything. But yeah, red flag, and there'll be 6 minutes and 25 seconds left on the clock. And surely they should clear that away, like literally now. This red flag is only going to last probably 2 or 3 minutes. But it does give us a chance to reset. And yeah, Vettel, Raikkonen, Latifi, Schumacher, Mazepin in the drop zone. Really, the only people who look like they're at risk of getting knocked out in Q1 are Stroll, Russell, Giovinazzi, and then the 5 that are in that drop zone. Doesn't look like anyone from Leclerc up is really in danger here. And yeah, the session will restart in literally a minute. Well, not even a minute. I think it basically restarts in a few seconds. Thankfully. So I'll sync the timer back up when they get to the 6-minute mark. And yes, a red flag for a cone on track. That is a first. Normally you'd just cover that under a yellow flag, but Michael Massey is a special kind of special, so there you go. As the red flag has now come back in, and you've got an Alfa Romeo on a new, fresh set of soft tyres of Kimi Raikkonen waiting at the exit of the pit lane, and now he goes. And that's actually Antonio Giovinazzi. Thought it was Raikkonen. I think Giovinazzi has a tribute helmet to his teammate, because it looks very similar to Kimi's. As the 2 Ferraris come out on a set of soft tyres. And there you go. So 6 minutes left in Q1. The only explanation for me as to why Ferrari did a run on the mediums is that they want to save a set of soft tyres for later in qualifying. That's the only explanation I can think of. Because the medium is not going to be any quicker than the soft around this circuit. It just isn't. That's the only thing that could explain why they did that, to be honest. As the 2 Ferraris are, out on track. And yeah, Tonkai, absolutely agree with you, saying the FIA have really turned F1 into a circus. I mean, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, 2 Ferraris now entering the final sector. Nice to see, by the way, a big crowd for this final Grand Prix for the title showdown. As now we're looking at on board Sebastian Vettel, who is now out on track on the soft compound tyre and is on, or is in rather, 16th position. And he could, I think Sebastian probably can get out of the drop zone here. As they've just shown a replay of him, I think, getting close to the barriers there. Or no, getting traffic into the final corner of an Alpine of, I don't know. And Vettel saying, man, what was he doing? I mean, yeah. Just backed off at the wrong time. Did the Alpine there. And I'm sure if Sebastian Vettel gets knocked out, that he will raise that to the stewards, or at least Aston Martin will. As Charles Leclerc begins one of his final laps of Q1. And let's see how quickly he'll go. Only a tenth and a half down he is through the first sector compared to Lewis Hamilton. Now opens the DRS on the run down to turn 6 and 7, the chicane. Doing about 320 kilometers an hour. Brakes hard. Gets the apex in nicely. Nice visor cam on this Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. And on the Delta screen, it's saying that he's about 0.3 of a second up on what he's done previously. So far, about 1/4 of a second down on Lewis Hamilton after the first 2 sectors. So, and this final sector, you'd imagine on now the softer tyre, he should be a lot quicker. And yet, already gaining about a couple tenths of a second through this final sector on the softer tyres. Carlos Sainz goes only 9th on the soft tyre. Charles Leclerc goes up to P6, so that's a bit better from Leclerc. Carlos Sainz, like I said, bit poor, the time difference there, as Giovinazzi goes 13th, and it is not Gasly in 14th. Actually, it's Lance Stroll who is in 14th place. So still Vettel, Raikkonen, Latifi, Schumacher, Mazepin in the drop zone. And Hamilton and Bottas out on track. So is Perez. I mean, they don't need to come out on track really, because this session is for, just getting through to the top 15. But they want to get some more bankers in for later in the session. And yeah, 2 minutes left, and we'll see what Vettel and Raikkonen can do. I think they're currently on a lap. Are Vettel and Raikkonen. I think Sebastian has just started his lap. Here is Lewis Hamilton, though, who is currently P1, who is starting another lap on the soft compound tyre. Flat, of course, through turn 2 and 3, and turn 4 isn't a corner. Well, not really a corner. Technically it is, but not really. And he's about a tenth of a second up on his personal best first sector, also known as a purple first sector. As he now opens the DRS, this is where the Mercedes does its work. Brakes hard. And gets it turned in nicely. And on the exit, looking just fine. Also, Mick Schumacher in 19th has done a personal best first sector. We'll see where he can go with his lap. Hamilton comes up to the middle sector point and is 3.5 tenths of a second quicker. Hamilton on for another very, very quick lap here. Hamilton now into turn 12, where he locked up earlier in practice 3. Mick Schumacher, by the way, is on a pretty good lap so far. Might even go ahead of Raikkonen or Latifi with this lap if he continues like he is. As Hamilton now, Sebastian Vettel, by the way, jumps up to 14th. Lewis Hamilton goes even quicker in the Mercedes and is on a 1:22.8 now. 4 tenths of a second quicker than he was. Oh no, 4 tenths of a second, sorry, quicker than Max Verstappen. That's what I was trying to say. Then you got Bottas up to second. Tsunoda goes 4th. Gasly's currently in P12. He's going to improve his lap, and he goes Gasly up to 5th place in the AlphaTauri. Sergio Perez now goes in 4th. And hold on. So Verstappen 3rd, Perez 4th, and then it's Tsunoda 5th, Gasly 6th. As Latifi has got himself out of the drop zone so far. That's a great attempt there for Nicholas Latifi, but he's dropped back in because Lance Stroll has gone up to 13th. Ocon goes 9th. And Alonso currently 12th. He goes up to P11. So Vettel 15th. And then Carlos Sainz goes to 8th place. Charles Leclerc goes 6th in the Ferrari. So in the drop zone, and looks as though knocked out is Latifi, Russell, Raikkonen, Schumacher, and Mazepin. Really. And given what we've seen from Kimi Raikkonen in qualifying this season, that's not really a surprise. I have to say, though, I think we have to give credit. Nicholas Latifi out-qualifying his teammate yet again. He did it a few races ago, didn't he? Or a couple races ago where he out-qualified Russell, and he's done it yet again. Latifi has been pretty good this season. And if he keeps this up next season, I think he'll really stake his claim as a good driver that definitely deserves to be on the grid. But that's the end of Q1, and knocked out Nicholas Latifi, George Russell, Kimi Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher, and Nikita Mazepin. And, of course, Q2 will be underway momentarily. And Q2, 15 minutes long, where we'll knock out the next 5, leaving us then Q3 with just 10. And I'll just get the other dotted line ready for use. So there you go. So obviously at the end of Q2, anyone in between those two dotted lines, at the end of Q2, if it ends up being Ricciardo, Alonso, Stroll, Giovinazzi, Vettel in those 5 positions, then they will be knocked out and will be starting in those positions for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But Astro Steve saying, amazing to think we've gone for a season with no Red Bull and AlphaTauri driver swaps. That was only 2019. That was that it was cool to do that. I'll just look at Twitter to see if there's anything to report. Let me just have a look. Don't think there's anything I can see at the moment. No, nothing really. Nothing really going on news-wise. I'm just looking though another piece of news actually, which is not to do with this Grand Prix, but F1 has been urged to resist teams' call for ridiculous budget cap increase over sprint races. This is a quote of some sorts by Zach Brown, who of course is the CEO of McLaren, who says some F1 teams are pushing for ridiculous increases in the budget cap for 2022 due to the addition of 3 extra sprint races. Budget cap, $145 million US dollars. For 2021, it's supposed to fall to 140 million, but apparently a number of teams are trying to increase it because of sprint races. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen. That's all I can say. I mean, if the sprint race wasn't a thing, then that'd be the biggest solution, and it still is the biggest solution. We don't need artificial, stuff like sprint races to make things exciting. This season's been exciting enough. The sprint races have not added any type of excitement for me to the season. It's not, I'm not going to really remember them from this season in terms of, like I said, adding anything. Adding, another layer of excitement, for example, on top of what we've already had. It's been a great season, and hopefully this weekend will deliver. Got to say, though, does look as though at the moment Lewis Hamilton is, looking great. And if he continues that type of speed over Max Verstappen in the rest of the session, then Max is going to have to pull out an all-time great lap if he is going to be pole position here in Yas Marina. And now we're just waiting to see when the cars come out on track. The session should be underway in just a moment. Might have even started, but, no one's come out on track yet. I'll make sure to get the timer off on screen as soon as I can, as the sun has almost set here at Abu Dhabi. And we just await to see when cars will come out on circuit. And this is going to be a close session, because Alpine don't look to be as quick as they were yesterday, but they look to be definitely quick enough to get cars into the top 10. So there's going to be a couple people here falling foul of the line to get into Q3 who are going to be probably a bit upset, to be honest. And then the bottom 3 positions in Q2 should be reserved for the Aston Martins and Giovinazzi, really, given the pace difference we've seen this weekend. As Mercedes are going to come out on the set, or on a set of medium compound tyres. Red Bull, I assume, will be doing the same. Yes, they will. And that is a good thing, obviously, for the race, because the medium compound tyre should be a good tyre for the race. Of course, the 3 compounds we have this weekend are the softest compounds this weekend. So tyre durability is a very important factor. As qualifying 2 gets underway in 1 second, and there you go. So 15 minutes to go. Let's see what these 2 big teams, Mercedes and Red Bull, have on a harder compound of tyre. Let's see if there's a bigger difference between the teams or a smaller difference. Probably won't be that much different from what we saw in Q1, if I'm being honest, as the AlphaTauris come out on the mediums as well. So probably everyone except a couple cars will come out on the mediums, because it is, like I said, it is definitely the best race tyre, and the soft tyre will not be a good race tyre really after 5 laps in the Grand Prix if you were to start on that tyre. Saying that, Lance Stroll is coming out on the soft compound tyre, of course. He wants to desperately get into the top 10 as the Red Bulls continue on this lap. And also Sebastian Vettel coming out on the soft compound tyre. Giovinazzi, I think, is coming out as well. I'm going to guess. Nope, he's on the medium. That's a surprise with Giovinazzi there, that he's on the medium. As Lewis saying, so this compound is going to need a bit more work. So what he's saying basically is he's going to have to do probably a warm-up lap to get the tyre in its best condition to do, the quickest time possible in Q2. Which, of course, it will add, a lap of wear, but it shouldn't make an absolutely critical difference, really, in the Grand Prix. Hamilton now starts his lap now into turn 1. Car looking good. And he did, a 22.8 in Q1. So let's see how quick this is. If it's just as quick as a 22.8, if not quicker, then Hamilton looking pretty certain for pole, I'd say. As he's, of course, done a purple first sector. We'll see what Max Verstappen does for the first sector. And it is a 16.9, but it's not a purple first sector. Hamilton only a couple hundredths of a second quicker than Max. As Lewis now opens the DRS on the run down to the second chicane. And does a 52.7 for the lap so far. As Max now enters that DRS straight on the run to turn 9. Hamilton now into turn 12. Car looking very good, I have to say. And yeah, Max quite a bit down on Lewis Hamilton now. As Hamilton into the final two corners. Car looking very, very good, like I said. Final corner, car hooks up absolutely how you would expect. And he does a 1:23.1, which is not bad, but maybe not as good as I was expecting, as Max Verstappen only a tenth slower on this lap. Now comes to the line, and Verstappen goes second and only 4 thousandths of a second slower than Lewis Hamilton. So, very good lap there from Max, but I'm guessing that Lewis can go quicker, because Max is quicker, I think, than his Q1 time with that time on the medium. But Lewis is, 3/10 slower, so I'm sure that Lewis could go quicker there. So Bottas is then third, and you've got Tsunoda fourth, Norris fifth, Perez sixth, and then Lance Stroll is in seventh position. And then you've got Giovinazzi eighth, and then Pierre Gasly, surprisingly, in ninth place with that lap. Sebastian Vettel now goes 10th, but his time very slow. He's done like a slow build-up lap, I believe, on the, soft, medium, I don't know. Oh no, it is a soft, so I'm going to assume it's just a build-up lap or he's made a mistake with that run. And the only other drivers we're waiting for in terms of setting a lap time are the two Ferraris, the two Alpines, and the McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo. But only 6 hundredths of a second separate the top three, Lewis, Max, Valtteri, as Esteban Ocon, with 10 minutes to go in Q2, now begins his first timed run. Let's see what the Alpine pace is here in Q2. Alpine, by the way, on the soft, clearly feeling as though they need to secure grid position over, the best tyre strategy for the race. As Ocon, pretty good first sector. Alonso, much better first sector though, so great first sector for Alonso. Only a tenth of a second slower than Lewis Hamilton, and actually a tenth quicker than Charles Leclerc in the first sector alone. So Alpine looking pretty good there. Now to sector 2. Ocon goes through the chicane. Car looking very good, I have to say, through that chicane. As Sebastian Vettel goes up to 9th place. And Esteban Ocon only 0.6 of a second off Hamilton so far on this lap. So this lap will put him around Vettel and Gasly, I'm going to assume. So 9th or 10th. So this isn't the greatest lap from Esteban Ocon, I have to say, as he now comes into the final two corners. We'll see where Ocon goes. Like I said, it should be around Vettel and Gasly in 9th and 10th place. Ocon comes to the line, and now he goes up to P5 with that lap. Fernando Alonso now goes 5th. So there you go. Alpine, great final sector. As Charles Leclerc now goes 3rd in the Ferrari, a purple final sector. So the soft compound tyres really working well, as Max saying, fuck, flat spot, massive. As Carlos Sainz goes fastest on the soft compound tyre, 0.011 of a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton. So Carlos Sainz is up to P1, and then it's Hamilton 2nd, Verstappen 3rd, and then I think Charles Leclerc 4th. And yeah, just seeing a replay of Max locking that set of mediums. So we'll see if he goes for another set of mediums to improve that time. But it is, with 7.5 minutes to go in Q2, it is Sainz, Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Bottas, your top 5. And then it is Tsunoda in 6th place. Alonso is 7th. Esteban Ocon is in 8th. And then it is Norris 9th, Perez 10th. And then in the drop zone, needing to get out and get into the shootout, you've got Ricciardo 11th, Stroll 12th, Giovinazzi 13th, Vettel 14th, and Gasly in 15th. The AlphaTauris are going to have to go again on a set of mediums, even Tsunoda, because I don't think that tyre is performing as well as they probably expected. Certainly for Gasly. Let me just quickly read the chat to say what you guys have to say. Brazil sprint race was good, to be fair. It was the best one, but it wasn't, I didn't think it was great. It was decent, but it wasn't, it was only really made by Lewis Hamilton starting at the back. If he didn't start at the back, it would have been just a typical, typical sprint race from what we've seen earlier in the season. Now we're looking at Lando Norris, who's on circuit on a set of medium compound tyres. Is he going to come into the pit lane? Yes, he is. It's the last man to come in then. Is Lando, but he's looking okay at the moment. Sergio Perez will have to come back out on a set of soft tyres. There's no way Sergio is going to have to, or going to risk, staying on that medium set to go into the top 10. And plus, honestly, given the pace we've seen from Hamilton and Mercedes so far this weekend, I would actually start Perez on the soft and then, have Verstappen on the medium. But I'd start Perez on the soft because if then Sergio was to use that tyre well to get a good start, which of course if you're on the softer tyre, it does help your chance of getting a good start because you have more grip off the line. And the tyres, of course, obviously fire up quicker. If Perez can, then somehow have a go at Hamilton because of being on that soft, then it can help, of course, Max's situation. So that's what I would do, personally, if I was Red Bull, is put Sergio on the soft anyway to try and interfere with Lewis Hamilton's race in some way, shape or form. With a good start and possibly, if the Red Bulls are close enough, through the first stint, an undercut. As we are now looking at Sebastian Vettel on circuit, currently in 14th place, and he's back out on another set of the soft compound tyre. Half a second he needs to get into Q3. Really, his aim should be to outqualify Stroll. If he outqualifies Stroll, then he'll probably end up with a decent grid position, like a 11th or 12th. I don't think he'll get into the top 10 here. I don't think the Aston Martin is quite quick enough for that, if I'm being honest. But he will try. And here is Stroll, his teammate, who is currently in P12. Stroll's qualifying form, pretty abysmal, but the Aston Martin has been pretty slow in the second half of the season. Aston Martin really throwing away what they have for this year and just concentrating on next year. As now other cars coming out on track on an outlap. Sainz, Hamilton, Leclerc, Bottas, Tsunoda, Alonso, Norris, Giovinazzi. And now we'll see what Aston Martin can do. So Sebastian Vettel starts what probably will be no, he's going to warm up on this lap. I was going to say it probably will be his final lap, but this is going to be a warm-up lap by the looks of it for Sebastian Vettel. We'll see if, hopefully we'll see if Lance Stroll is doing the same thing, probably. But Max is out on the soft, so Max out on track on the soft, and bloody hell, look at the amount of cars at the turn 6, 7 chicane. Traffic jam through there. But Max Verstappen out on the soft compound tyre, so Red Bull feeling as though that they need to, they need to be on that tyre to get through, which I'm surprised by. Maybe they've not got another set of mediums. If that's the case, that is a bit of a blow. But tomorrow, the AlphaTauri's got very close there to Carlos Sainz. I thought they were going to take him out, as Sainz is saying it's like a race out there. It is. All battling for track position. And here is Max Verstappen, who's at the very back of that pack, having to negotiate. Oh, that looked a bit awkward there with Alonso. And this could end in tears, isn't it? As Verstappen now, I think, is going to wait at the back of that pack. He does have 1 minute and 40 seconds, so he has plenty of time to wait for them all to sort themselves out in that silly scrap, I have to say. As Fernando Alonso starts his final lap of Q2, currently in P7, looking very good to get into Q3, as we're a yellow flag in Sector 3. Don't know what that's for, as Alonso's done a decent first sector. Track now clear. No, yellow flag in Sector 3. No, track clear again. Something's happening in that final sector. Don't know what it is. As Alonso, and yeah, track fine now. Alonso through the turn 6, 7 chicane. Looking good. Sparks flying away from underneath the Alpine. Let's see what his middle sector time is like. It is only 0.2 of a second slower than Carlos Sainz. Not a personal best middle sector, but this final sector is where it matters most, as Lewis Hamilton on the medium compound tyre than a purple first sector. He's not improved his second sector, but he is, so far on this lap, 0.2 of a second up on Carlos Sainz, as we're entering now the final 20 seconds or so of Q2. And Alonso, bit of traffic ahead that might affect him there, and Alonso comes to the line, stays 7th. I think that traffic might have affected him. Will it affect him staying in the top 10? Lewis Hamilton goes P1 by a couple hundredths of a second. Hamilton from Sainz, and here is now Lance Stroll. Can he get out of the drop zones? The checkered flag now full. Stroll to the line. No, P12 for him. Gasly has not improved his laps so far and only goes 12th. What a poor attempt there for Gasly. And Sergio Perez goes all the way up to 10th place in the Red Bull. So Perez up to 10th. Charles Leclerc ends up and stays in P5. But yeah, Gasly there. What a shock that is for him to be down in P12. Here comes Esteban Ocon, currently in 9th place. Round the final corner, rear end stepping out a bit, but he goes up to 8th. There doesn't seem to be that much grip left in the circuit right now. Norris comes to the line and goes 7th for McLaren. So Alonso right at risk here as Max Verstappen goes quickest. So Max will start the race on the soft. So the 2 Red Bulls will start on the soft and the 2 Mercedes will start on the medium. That's going to make things very interesting at the start tomorrow. As Ricciardo P11, can he get out and into the top 10? Yes, he can. Daniel Ricciardo into Q3, meaning that Fernando Alonso was held up probably a bit unfairly there at the end. And I think it was actually Ricciardo who held him up. So that might be something that Alpine might want to look at. But there you go. That's Q2 over and done with. And into Q2, Verstappen, Perez, Hamilton, Sainz, Leclerc, Bottas, Norris, Tsunoda, Ocon, Ricciardo. By the way, great job by Tsunoda. He got through on the medium. So Yuki will start the race on the medium compound tyre. And he outqualified teammate Gasly, of course. So yes, Tsunoda 8th and Ocon 9th and Ricciardo 10th. So knocked out guys in Q2. Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Sebastian Vettel. And now we'll prepare for the shootout Q3. And even though Max went on a soft compound tyre there, it's still, it's in the balance to a certain extent, I think, this session in regards to who's going to end up where. Not an all done thing. And we'll wait to see when the 12 minutes of Q3 come around. We'll wait to see what goes down here. And I'll just quickly have a look to see any quick news in regards to what's happening in qualifying. Just to see if there's anything to update you guys about. But that is something that is going to be very interesting for tomorrow. Max on the soft, Lewis on the medium. Max should get a better start on the soft. So, like I said, going to be interesting to see what happens. Let's just see if there's any news I can read out. I think something the Nib said yesterday is that Red Bull's race pace in practice yesterday was really good. And it looks as though, and Helmut Marko confirmed earlier, that Red Bull's race pace is their priority, which of course it has to be the case because, you know, they can be great here in qualifying, but if they're not quick enough in the race, it doesn't matter. So if Red Bull do showcase very good race pace, that could be what wins them the Grand Prix, what wins them the championship. So Red Bull could be a completely different prospect tomorrow compared to what we see in qualifying today. But yeah, Q3 should start in a couple minutes time. If your predictions, by the way, guys, for the pole position have changed, then make sure to post them in chat. If you want to post in chat your predictions for pole position, then make sure to do so, and I'll try and read out a couple before we get properly into the scrap for said pole position. Pierre Gasly, I have to say, and that's why, right, that's why there was a yellow flag. Sebastian Vettel literally stopped his car in the final sector, I think, to give himself space. That was, yeah, I've never seen that before. So much traffic, you literally stop the car. And yet, here's a replay of Alonso. Wave with his hand as well, but the McLaren ahead of him, which I think was Ricciardo, the man who knocked him out. So, like I said, I think Alpine might have something to say about that. But, yeah, Gasly knocked out in 12th place. That is a big surprise. If you look at this season and what Gasly has done in qualifying, normally he's up in the top 6, top 7 on the grid, but P12 is where it will be, and he's been comfortably out-qualified by his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. So, yeah. Astro Steve says, would have been really interesting to see how Giovinazzi would have done versus teammate who wasn't Kimi. Sai, 2 seasons and still not sure how to really rate him. I think Giovinazzi is good enough for Formula 1. I just think the car he was in wasn't good enough. We have to remember that. The Alfa Romeo is a poor car. It's been poor since like the last few races of 2019 is really when that started. So, yeah. As according to the fans watching on Sky Sports, they think Lewis Hamilton will be on pole position, but most of them probably are Hamilton fans. And of course, if you're watching on Sky Sports, you know, the UK Sky Sports, then you know, you're probably British. But, yeah, we'll see in a moment what the first runs in Q3 have for us. That's it. Get rid of Gasly. Yeah. Keith Haas says, like to see Ferrari on pole, like to see McLaren top 5. I mean, yeah, it'd be great for a surprise. And I think if we were to get a surprise like that, it would make for a great race because it would add to the drama, I think, of tomorrow's race, which is going to be dramatic enough, probably. But realistically, doesn't look as though Ferrari and McLaren are quick enough to compete with Max and Lewis for the pole position. Maybe they could get fourth, a Ferrari or a McLaren. But realistically, doesn't look as though pole position is on the cards for a midfield team. As Max Verstappen is now waiting at the end of the pit lane to be released onto the circuit, along with his teammate Sergio Perez, as Q3 starts in 15 seconds time. And we wait to see whether Max or Lewis will get pole position. A pole position that could decide the destiny of the World Championship. Because, of course, pole here in Abu Dhabi has been important in the past. The winner of the last 6 races here at Yas Marina has been the pole position man. So it is a very important position to be in. The last man to win who wasn't on pole was Lewis Hamilton in 2014, who, of course, won the race and won his second World Championship. Amazing that Hamilton has won so much since then. And then 2013, Webber started on pole but didn't win. 2012, Hamilton started on pole but retired. Vettel started on pole in 2011, retired. And then I think 2010 was the only other time where the pole man has won. But yeah, since 2015, pole position guarantees you victory. Will it be the case tomorrow? We'll have to see. But like I was saying, pole position is very, very important here. One of the most important pole positions in Formula One. As Perez is going through his outlap, and I think behind him on track, Max Verstappen. They're just coming through the exit, or Max Verstappen is coming through the exit of turn 9 now into turn 10 and 11. And let's see what Max Verstappen has. Just needs to make sure, Max, that he doesn't make that mistake he made in Saudi Arabia, which, of course, I think in the end maybe did cost him in Saudi. And here we go. Max Verstappen rounds the final corner and starts his first flying lap and first attempt at pole position here in Q3. Now into turn 1. And car looking good through the exit of turn 1. Now flat through turn 2 and turn 3. And we'll see what his first sector time is. It's a 16.8. 16.8. That is a very good first sector. That's basically what Hamilton was doing earlier on. Hamilton, by the way, has now started his first flying lap. And his first attempt at pole position. As Max now to turn 6 and 7. And Lewis does a quicker first sector, but it's only quicker by about a couple hundredths of a second. But Hamilton goes wide at the apex of turn 5. So Hamilton there losing time, I think. Like I said, it's not absolutely critical that you hit the apex there, but he did go a bit wider than he really would have wanted. As Max now into turn 12 and 13. This is really where the Red Bull works its magic. It's definitely better through this final sector. As Lewis Hamilton, his middle sector is slower than Max's. As Max Verstappen comes to the line and is on, at the moment, provisional pole position with a 1:22.1. What a lap time that is. What a time by Max Verstappen, pulling out an amazing lap just when he needs to. As you've now got Norris up in second. Well, not for the moment, as it's now Tsunoda. Here comes Lewis Hamilton around the final corner. Lewis to the line. Second place, half a second down on Max Verstappen. So with 8 minutes to go, Max 5.5 tenths clear of Lewis Hamilton. What a lap time by Max Verstappen, a 1:22.1. Yes, Lewis made a mistake at turn 5, but I didn't see any other mistakes on that lap. So that is a brilliant attempt from Max Verstappen. And then you got Yuki Tsunoda up in third place ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who is only fourth, which doesn't make any sense. Don't know why he couldn't go quicker than Tsunoda there, but Bottas is 4th. And then you've got Carlos Sainz in 5th place. Charles Leclerc 6th. Norris is 7th. Ocon is 8th. Ricciardo is 9th. And Perez is 10th. Perez had some kind of issue on his lap. But Max Verstappen is, as this is Sergio Perez on his 2nd attempt. Perez comes to the line and goes 3rd. Perez 3rd, but Perez 8/10 of a second, 8.5 tenths slower than teammate Max Verstappen. Perez up to 3rd. But like I was about to say, with 7 minutes to go, Max Verstappen holds the advantage of 5.5 tenths of a second as Yuki Tsunoda has had his time deleted by the stewards for exceeding track limits. Let me just update that. Bottas then is up to 4th. Sainz is 5th. Leclerc 6th. Norris 7th. Ocon 8th. Ricciardo 9th. And Tsunoda is 10th going into the final run. But like I said, 5.5 tenths separate Max and Lewis. I had a feeling that Max, when it came to Q3, the critical part of the session, that Max would be able to produce a lap that he was on in Saudi before that mistake at the final corner. As Tsunoda had his time deleted for track limit violation at turn 16, which is the final, the exit of the final corner. Like I said, I had a feeling that Max had, more left in him and he was going to wind up for a lap like that, but I didn't think it would be that good. And now Lewis, if Lewis is going to get pole, it's going to have to be one of, if not his best lap of his entire career to get pole position. Because that is a lot of time to make up when most of the track is straights. But with 5.5 minutes to go, we'll see what happens. And here's a replay. And this is a replay of turn 5. So he locks his inside front. Not a massive mistake. He wouldn't have lost all of the time there for sure. He would have only probably lost a tenth and a half probably. So the gap would have been, say 3.5 to 4 tenths around at best if Lewis had got through that corner in the best way possible. But still, 3.5, 4 tenths of a second is still a lot of time to be losing. So, it's not just down to that. And the Tsunoda track extension, I have to say, is not really a track extension. I'm not sure, actually, he went any quicker, as they just showed a replay of it on the screen. But, going into this final run, I think you'd have to say that Max Verstappen is the favourite to get pole here. He has the gap. As long as Max improves his final lap. Someone asking in chat, TJ, where did Verstappen gain the time? The second sector, I think it was 2 tenths, and the final sector, I think it was 3.5 tenths over Hamilton. Remember, Hamilton did do a quicker first sector than Max, but like I said, if all Max does in this final 3.5 minutes, if all he does is improve on that 122.109, that should be enough no matter what Lewis does, because I doubt that Lewis will be able to find 6 or 7 tenths of a second. If he is, then wow, but yeah, I think Max is in a good position here. As now the cars are coming back out on track for the final time. And I'll bring up this picture of the two protagonists, because that's who, of course, we're looking out for. Max and Lewis. And I hope there's no shenanigans on this final lap. And Max did get a slipstream from Sergio Perez in that middle sector, but I don't think that's responsible for all of the time. That probably would have given him an extra tenth and a half. at most. I think, you have to just say Max is on pole at the minute because he did the better lap. We'll see if that continues in 2.5 minutes' time. As all of the cars on circuit, the first man is Hamilton. So Lewis Hamilton will be the first man on track. Verstappen is at the back of a bit of a train of cars. Ferrari, couple McLarens, I think an Alpha Tauri possibly in there as well. And with 2 minutes to go, Hamilton and Bottas are leading the pack. And Lewis Hamilton is now going to get on with it. So if Lewis Hamilton wants to be on pole, the most important position for tomorrow's Grand Prix, then he has to make sure he gets this lap right. Now into turn 1. And Hamilton, slight movement there from Hamilton's car, but it's okay enough. And now Hamilton through the flat turn 3. Let's see what his first sector time is like. It's slower than his personal best, but a much better turn 5, so he'll gain the time back. Will Lewis Hamilton now opens the DRS down to the turn 6 and 7 chicane. And Hamilton, let's see what he can do. And that chicane looks okay. Nothing special, but okay. As Max has now started his final attempt here in qualifying 3. And Lewis is 0.2 of a second down on the lap so far. Going to have to produce the best final sector of his entire life if he is going to be on pole for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, as Max, by the way, has done a personal best first sector. Hamilton now into 13, turn 14, and now comes up to turn 15. And the final corner of turn 16, can Hamilton get pole position in Abu Dhabi? Comes to the line, and no, he cannot. He's way too far behind of almost 0.4 of a second. So surely Max Verstappen will be on pole. He's slightly up at the moment on his personal best lap. And surely Max has got the job done. Valtteri Bottas, by the way, has improved his lap but stays in 4th. So Perez is 3rd. That's great news for Red Bull. Remember, the Red Bulls will be starting on the soft, Mercedes on the medium. So Perez could. And no! Norris goes 3rd for McLaren. Perez ends up P4. And Verstappen completes his lap. Max Verstappen on pole position. What a brilliant lap from Max. And if he does win this championship, then that is the lap that could possibly have done the job. Valtteri Bottas, by the way, what a shocker he has had. Valtteri Bottas has now dropped down to 6th place. And the Dutch army, lots of the Dutch army here, I think a few thousand from Holland to support Max Verstappen, and he has really given them a good show. So, end of Q3, Max Verstappen is on pole, Lewis Hamilton 2nd, Lando Norris will start 3rd, Sergio Perez will start 4th, Carlos Sainz will start 5th, Valtteri Bottas 6th. There's no way he's going to help his teammate from 6th place. He is out of play now in the Grand Prix in terms of the fight for victory. And then Leclerc 7th, Tsunoda 8th, Ocon 9th, and Ricciardo 10th, but bravo to Max Verstappen. Whether you like him or hate him or whatever, you have to admit Max was the better man today, and that lap that he did, a 1:22.1, was just too good. It was way, way too good. Bravo to him, and also a massive bravo to Lando Norris, 3rd on the grid, and you never know what could happen between the front two. Could end up with a very good result tomorrow. Anything does happen to those front two. But guys, qualifying is over and done with. Let me read out the final results of qualifying. The Max Verstappen will start the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix on pole position. Lewis Hamilton will be 2nd, Lando Norris 3rd, Perez 4th, Sainz 5th, Bottas 6th, Leclerc 7th, Tsunoda 8th, Ocon 9th, and Ricciardo 10th. And then Alonso 11th, Gasly 12th, Stroll 13th, 14th Giovinazzi, 15th Vettel, Latifi 16th, Russell 17th, Raikkonen 18th, Schumacher 19th, and Nikita Mazepin in 20th. Make sure to join me and Nib as well, my co-commentator, for tomorrow's race watch-along, guys. 12:30 p.m. UK time tomorrow. Make sure to be there for the showdown between Max and Lewis. Will we have a first ever Dutch world champion or the first ever 8-time world champion? You can find out tomorrow with us on the channel. And as well, remember, not just that, but I'll be live 3 hours before the race starts at 10 a.m. UK time for the race preview, where we'll get into different strategies and what could happen, how the race could play out. And then, of course, right after the race finishes, I'll be live again with race reactions. So if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can subscribe right there. Also, smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, don't forget to join my Discord server, link below in the description. That's the best place that is for notifications of my videos and streams. But what a grid we have for tomorrow's Grand Prix. And guys, until the final race of 2021, that's looking to be possibly a thriller here in Abu Dhabi, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.